Excellencies, distinguished delegates, and colleagues. It's my pleasure to address you today on the pressing issue of racism in sport and steps taken towards, quote, a world of sport free from racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance. The importance of the Council's vision and work in this area is clear. Sport is a central part of our lives. It is a realm in which our children learn crucial values of teamwork and fairness. It's a venue in our communities where we can share triumphs and defeats, forging new bonds. It is an arena in which the incredible potential of the human body and spirit can inspire us all. Yet the scourge of racism is not only present within sport, but at times amplified, given the millions of people who participate and view sports daily. The impacts of racism within sport are well known and immense for those directly threatened by it. They recount lifelong consequences relating to their livelihoods and lives. But the poisoning effect of racism in sports spreads far beyond those effects. It can deter young athletes from pursuing their dreams. It can ruin the joy of sport for those who attend or view events. And it can infect and spread the scourge of racism beyond the sports arena within our societies. Yet racism and racial discrimination remain a pervasive and destructive force in sport, undermining the fundamental principles of equality, non-discrimination, and human dignity. Athletes have been subjected to physical, emotional, and other forms of abuse and discrimination, often with little recourse or remedy. With this concerning situation in mind, both the Office and the UN Human Rights mechanisms have repeatedly highlighted cases of racial discrimination in sport and are working to increase our engagement and impact. We have called attention to racism, racist hate speech, incitement, violence, and the dissemination of negative stereotypes, which manifest as racism, xenophobia, and hate crimes in sports on a number of occasions. We've also noted that the response to these incidents is often insufficient, and that little detailed information is available on investigations, prosecution, and other measures to sanction such acts. The persistence of racial slurs and chants and xenophobic behavior, despite numerous campaigns and in some cases penalties, reflects an entrenched problem deeply embedded in the social fabric of societies. In today's digital world, these problems are amplified through social media, as illustrated recently when two women boxers at the 2024 Olympics faced discriminatory and online hateful comments rooted in harmful disinformation, racial, and gendered stereotypes. Racism and xenophobic acts are often underpinned by long-standing practices and attitudes that exclude or marginalize certain groups. As elsewhere in society, the sports world also suffers from the underrepresentation of racial or ethnic groups and minorities in leadership roles and differential treatment of players based on racial or religious grounds, among other issues. Structural racism in sport manifests in policies and practices that disadvantage athletes and limit their opportunities. The past year has, however, seen some steps forward. In June 2024, football fans in Spain were convicted and sentenced for racially insulting Real Madrid player Vinicius Jr., the first such ruling. This important result would not have been possible without the courage and perseverance of Vinicius Jr. himself. His voice and that of other athletes standing up against racism should not only be seen as sources of inspiration, but they need to be heard and heeded. In July 2024, the European football governing body, UEFA, sanctioned 7 of the 24 competing countries at Euro 2024 because of racist or discriminatory behavior by their fans. FIFA has implemented a 3-step, quote, no racism gesture that requires stopping, suspending, and eventually abandoning a match if a racist incident does not cease. The Spanish Football League and the Royal Spanish Football Federation have adopted this gesture in their protocols for action. We encourage other countries and sporting entities to take similar steps and to strictly implement procedures and policies against racism and xenophobia. Together with partner organizations and the UN Human Rights mechanisms, our office has intensified efforts to support a range of actors to meet their responsibilities and obligations to combat racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance. In these efforts, we have also paid attention to where these issues intersect with sexism and discrimination based on religion, including in relation to religious attire. In October 2023, OHCHR organized a panel discussion on fighting racism in sports during the 21st session of the Intergovernmental Working Group on the Effective Implementation of the Durban Declaration and Program of Action. Sports bodies and associations participated in this event, along with UN actors. The discussion focused on challenges such as the lack of policies on fighting racism and limited remedial actions. In December 2023, in collaboration with the Center for Sport and Human Rights, OHCHR co-hosted the Sporting Chance Forum, a multi-stakeholder platform for driving accountability and promoting sport as a force for positive social change. During the forum, the High Commissioner called on states, sports governing bodies, athletes, sponsors, and civil society to take coordinated action in the fight against racism in sports and to actively engage in efforts to ensure a world of sport free from racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance. During the 2024 European Football Championship, together with the World Jewish Congress, the office organized a panel discussion on combating anti-Semitism in the context of football. This exchange was preceded by a tour of the Berlin Sports Museum exhibit on, quote, sports, crowds, power, football under the Nazis. A summary of the discussion will be published on our website with follow-up recommendations highlighting ways to tackle anti-Semitism in sport. In July 2024, the office organized a panel discussion at the HRC on promoting inclusiveness in and through sport with interventions by persons with disabilities and refugee athletes, which amplified calls for zero tolerance of racism and all forms of discrimination in sport, including anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. On 31 August, to mark the International Day for People of African Descent, we joined with Vinicius Jr. to stand up against racism in sport and ensure every space is inclusive, diverse, and free from discrimination through a video message and social media efforts. The office has also intensified its awareness raising around issues addressed in the resolution. For example, with national stakeholders in Saudi Arabia, at the regional level at a Gulf Cooperation Countries Dialogue, and at a global level with the World Players Association. Sports environments should be inclusive and safe places where all athletes, regardless of their race, ethnicity, nationality, religion or belief, sex, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, sex characteristics, or other status, are respected and celebrated for their talents and achievements. Everyone, states, sporting bodies, media, and social media should stand up for the human rights in sport, for inclusion, dignity, and respect, and should take steps to combat hateful, discriminatory, and dehumanizing narratives. Together, we can create a sport environment that upholds human rights for all and that serves as an example of what is possible in the broader society, promoting integration and intercultural dialogue in and through sport. Our office stands ready to support all stakeholders in these crucial efforts to combat racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance in and through sports. Thank you.